Hi, Dr. Jeff here. Just getting started on my Above Down Inside Out show for February 21st. We're going to be talking about some things in the news, 3D mammograms, things that medicine is constantly trying to sell you. And I want you to ponder and reflect and see if that is absolutely right for you in your lives with your family. So I hope you enjoy. So sit back and listen. Welcome to Above Down Inside Out. My name is Dr. Jeff Winchester from Bridgeport Family Chiropractic. What Above Down Inside Out stands for is where life comes from. Above down is from God to man, and inside out is how God designed your body to heal. Now, I'm a maximized living chiropractor. Maximized living chiropractic has to do with the 5 principles of maximized living. Now, these 5 principles aren't just 5 good ideas. There are 5 things you absolutely have to do if you want 100% of God to flow through your body 100% of the time. Let me go over those essentials with you right now. Maximize living essential number 1. That's called maximize mind. Now, part of maximize mind is a belief in a higher power. Now, that's a very important thing to have. However, we still have to have peace in our life. You see, I don't want you worried about what President Donald Trump is doing. I want you worried about what you can do in your life to control the people around you, the people that you love. I want you to think about what you can do with your breakfast and lunch, because that's going to have far more impact than someone else that lives in another country. You have to have peace in your life, but if you constantly go to bed worrying about everything, that's going to affect your immune system, and that will increase the chance of you becoming much sicker in the future. Maximize living essential number 2, well, that's all about the nervous system. You see, God put the most amazing power in your brain and spinal cord. In fact, your brain and spinal cord control and coordinate every single cell in your body. So for your heart to beat, your lungs to breathe, or a cut on your leg to heal, a message must travel from your brain down your spinal cord, and then from the spinal cord it exits to the nerves, and it supplies every single cell in your body. Now, my job as a chiropractor, it's really simple, is to make sure there's no interference with the magnificent power of God. You see, I'm not here to heal you. I'm here to remove the interference with the knowledge that God already put that power inside your body. Ask yourself the question, is that what medicine does? Or is medicine constantly trying to suppress your body, to make your body do something? So if you've got a headache, they're going to give you a drug to take it away. If your stomach is acting up because you don't eat well or because you're under too much stress, they're going to give you a drug. Is that going to fix your diet? Is that going to fix your stress? We all know it's not, but people are choosing the drug route. And the drug route is going to have consequences in the long run. You see, you're trying to treat a symptom and leave the problem. As a maximized living chiropractor, I want you to acknowledge that there's an incredible power inside your body. God doesn't make any mistakes, and all we have to do is make sure there's no interference. You see, God doesn't need any help. He simply needs no interference. And the medications people are constantly putting in their body, and then they're putting food in their body that's constantly putting God to the test. They're putting way too much sugar in the body. They're choosing to not exercise, and then they think all is going to be well. Well, I like to be the voice of reason, and I believe that if you're breaking all of God's rules, eventually there's a consequence you will have to pay. It might not be today or tomorrow, but think about it. If you've been doing it wrong for 20 years, it just might be today or tomorrow. So what I want you to do is start moving more towards God. Start doing the things that you need to do so that your body can heal, because your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit. Maximize living essential number 3. Well, that's all about the food that we put into our body. You see, there's food by God and there's food by man. We all know we're supposed to put more food by God in our body and less food by man. Yet people are constantly in a rush state. They don't prepare their days. Then they end up having to eat fast food. And remember, fast food, it's named by how quickly you can get it. It's not named on nutrition. It's named on how quickly we can put it into your hands so that you can eat in your car and enjoy your meal. And this is not what we're supposed to be doing. Eating in our car? Come on. None of this makes sense to us. We know we're not supposed to do it. So I'm not saying you have to eat perfect, but what I'm saying is you have to eat more food by God and less food by man. Maximize living essential number 4, it's about exercise. Like it or not, everyone has to exercise. And in our office, I actually built a gym that my patients are allowed to come in and use. And my guests, the people who are listening to me here, you're invited in twice a week for workouts on Monday and Thursday night at 6:15. So we built that because we understand the importance of exercise. Exercise shows us it's important to take care of ourselves. So I want you to start exercising, whether it's going for a walk today, whether it's doing 10 push-ups, but we all need to do more to take care of our body by God. And when we do, the research is your immune system works better. The research is your brain works better. The research is we're decreasing the chance of cancer, diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, all of those conditions that no one really wants. Even the conditions like dementia and Alzheimer's. The two most common issues that people are going to run into when it comes to neurological conditions as people age. Wouldn't it be great to decrease that? Well, no drug is going to offer you that. You know what's going to offer you that? Lifestyle. It's always about lifestyle. So my recommendation is start with your lifestyle. And if that doesn't work, then you go on to medicine. But here's the funny thing about that. Lifestyle always works. So if you start now and you start to change your life, you'll get to the point where you're like me. Now, I'm 53 years of age, and I am 27 years and 5 months since any medication's gone into my body. Isn't that amazing? 27 years and 5 months. Haven't had to use Tylenol, haven't had to use Advil, haven't had to use extra strength Tylenol, haven't had to use cough syrup, haven't had to use anything because God's power is incredible. But what I need to do is make sure my diet is right and my exercise is right. And when I do all those things, my body doesn't get sick like other people. I don't end up at my medical doctor's office coughing, sneezing, sick for 2 weeks, and end up on antibiotics. It just doesn't happen. My youngest son, Mitchell has never had Tylenol in his life, and he's 22. So you know what? When I grew up, Tylenol didn't exist, and I didn't use Tylenol either. No one died. It's just the idea that your body can't heal is crazy to me because I'm on the other side of the fence. I'm on the side where I say, I hear what you're being told, but you have to understand it's just not true. God's power is limitless. You just have to get that power to flow better. Maximize living essential number 5. That's all about eliminating toxic things in your life. Now, the most common toxic thing that you put in your body is your medication. If you put in 8 Tylenol, that's enough to kill you. So people say, well, I only put in 6. Well, 6 is still pretty dangerous. It's just not 8. So I want you to think about your medication. I want you to filter your water. I want you to start using better cleaning products at home. I want you to throw your Teflon pan away. And then when you do that, you're not putting bad things into your body, and your body now has the best chance at healing. So welcome to my Above Down Inside Out show, February 21st edition. Now I want you to keep in mind with our show today, our theme is you are incredible. But you know there's always going to be a but there, don't you? But you're not doing what you should be doing. You're not necessarily listening. And more importantly, you're just not thinking. So I want you to think differently. Last week on the news, there was some information about mammograms, which is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about mammograms. We're going to talk about my trip to Florida. We're going to talk about what was in the news. And we're going to start by talking about the talk that you missed last week on text neck in our office. So my wife and I, we set our talk schedule for the year, and we thought text neck was going to be a killer idea. Now, the funny thing is about what I think, it's not necessarily what the public thinks. Now, when we put on a gut talk in October last year, we had over 50 people out to the talk. Now, our text messaging talk, it was around 10 or 12 people. And here's why. People don't want to acknowledge things that they know they need to change. For example, when I put on a talk on cancer, everyone agrees it's a great idea, but it spooks people. It scares people. So let me go over some of the highlights of my text neck talk because it's really important you understand how this is going to affect you, how it's affecting your children or grandchildren, and what we need to do to change that in our world. First, cell phones in the world. 6 billion cell phones now. Isn't that incredible how many phones are out there? That means everyone is now looking down at the phone. There was some research that my wife found, and I think the average amount of times that people look down at their phone in a day was 242 times. Can you imagine looking down that many times and thinking that's not going to do any kind of effect to the neck, the shoulder, or your how your nervous system works? Because it's absolutely going to affect it. The research that we talked about in our talk was the cell phones, the text neck is reaching epidemic proportions, and it's likely going to affect 58% of people. So 58% of people in the world are now at risk to this. By the time your child is at college or university level, they have been looking down at a phone for 10,000 hours. Now, 10,000 hours is the equivalent of 5 years of full-time work, just so you can get that into your head about how much that is. And the researchers went on to say that is similar to having a 7-year-old child on the back of that person who's in college looking down. That's what kind of stress it's going to cause to their shoulder. A 7-year-old child on your back all day long. Now, that doesn't sound like a real good idea, does it? And that's why people end up with the burning pain. That's why people are uncomfortable. That's why people end up with headaches in their life, because they're just not doing the things that they know they're supposed to do, and they think they're going to get away with it. So if you want to see the talk, it's on my website, www.drjeffwinchester.com. My son Adam should have that added on by next week. So since you missed the talk, you can always go online and you can see the information that you missed, and then you can just watch it from there. Now, today's show, I want to talk about 3D mammograms, because they were in the news last week. And in my opinion, they're the next bad idea in medicine. Medicine's always trying to sell you something. They're always trying to convince you that you need to do something to stay well. Well, in my opinion, all we have to do is remove interference, stop you from doing the things that you shouldn't be doing, and then the body will miraculously heal. That's how God designed your body. He did not design you to take drugs, to have organs cut out. He designed you to stay perfectly well. He made you perfect in His image. Now, first, the standard normal, as we call it, the 2D mammogram, there's problems with it. And one of the problems with a mammogram is they have something called a false positive rate. That is about 1 in 3 people that go for mammograms. So what that means is 1 out of 3 women who go in for a mammogram are told that there's a problem, and there's not a problem. So when I'm talking about a problem, let me be clear. We're thinking that there is cancer. That's what women are scared with. We have found something abnormal. We need to go on to further testing, which could involve biopsies. It could actually misdiagnose you, because the research shows that you can still be misdiagnosed at that stage and end up on chemotherapy, radiation, and mastectomies. This is not state of the art like you people think. Another bad aspect is there's something called a true negative. That means you go into the mammogram like your doctor asked, and there's actually cancer, but it didn't show up on your mammogram. So some people are told they have cancer and they don't. Some people are told they don't have cancer and they do. Once again, not state of the art. Now, little history in our family. My wife, Linda, has had 0 mammograms in her life. 0. We have more power, more faith in the power than we do in the medical model. Now, the old standards for mammograms were women at age 40 were supposed to have them every year up to the age of 70. So let's go back. The old standards would mean you would have 30 mammograms in the span between 40 and 70 years. Now, several years back, medicine came along and they quietly changed the standards. They quietly changed it to women should start at age 50 and it should be every other year. So if you start at 50 and you do it every other year, now there's only 10 mammograms instead of 30. The question you need to ask yourself is, why did medicine change it? The answer is easy. The answer is medicine was causing cancer by exposing tissue sensitive to cancer with radiation, which is a known cancer-causing agent. So then they said, we got to dial back on this because we're creating the problem. Now, here's the problem with that model. It's great that they acknowledge there's a difference. It's a shame they didn't really tell you the truth of why and make a big deal about it. But many doctors, many medical doctors have said, you know what, I'm still going to recommend at 40, and I'm still going to recommend every single year. Now, think back to a few shows ago where I was talking about medical research. By the time a researcher finds something, until they can make your medical doctor's puppet mouth open, it's 17 years. So what happens is people have to wait 17 years to hear the truth. This is why you have to start going online. This is why you have to start to do your research. Remember, medical doctors have been telling you that fat will make you fat. They've been telling you saturated fat is horrible for your body, so you should be eating polyunsaturated fat, which is worse for your body. The reality is, fat isn't the problem. Carbohydrates are your problem. Fats give you a great source of energy, and they're fantastic if you exercise and move. But if you're just going to eat fat and sit there, well, yeah, I guess fat could cause some problems. But the biggest issue is anytime someone goes on a low-fat diet, that means they're on a high-carb diet. So what medicine tells you isn't necessarily the truth. When it comes to the flu shot, everyone's telling you the flu shot is safe. Well, whatever you put in your body is up to you. But you might want to ask your medical doctor if there's mercury in that flu shot. And you know what? If your medical doctor or the health unit is going to be honest, they're going to say, yes, there's mercury in there. Now, if they are honest, they're going to say, yes, but don't worry about it. Mercury is totally safe. It's not safe. Mercury is one of the most toxic things out there, and they're giving it now to pregnant women. And I'm not supposed to be able to speak out and warn people? Listen, you guys have to think more. You have to do more. You're incredible, but you're not doing, you're not listening, and you're not necessarily thinking when you should be. So I don't want you to take what I say as verbatim, although that wouldn't be a bad starting spot. I want you to start to do your research instead of saying, well, I asked my medical doctor and my medical doctor said everything is safe. So let's get back to the mammograms. Listen to this, and this is a quote from Dr. David Braustein. Unfortunately, screening mammograms used for nearly 30 years have never been shown to alter breast cancer mortality. That's important to know, isn't it? Because there's this illusion that if you go for a mammogram, we're going to be saving lives. Well, here's a medical doctor that says it's not going to alter mortality at all. And to make it worse, mammogram exposes sensitive tissue to ionizing radiation, which actually causes cancer. In fact, it is estimated that each mammogram increases the woman's risk of breast cancer by 1%. After 10 years of mammograms, that increases the woman's risk up to 10%. That's what's happening. This is a quote from a medical doctor. Now, since 1980, there's been a 7-fold increase in the lifetime radiation that you're getting. That's a 700% increase in the amount of radiation that women are getting nowadays. Now, here's what happens. With the standard 2D mammogram, a lot of doctors and radiologists are going to recommend that you get the 2D and you get the 3D after that. So you know what that's going to do? First, it's going to make your radiologist rich. Second, it's going to now increase your radiation exposure by 3 times. And the more you do this, the more likely you're going to end up with cancer. So what's going to happen is women are going to get talked into this because they didn't think about it. And then they're going to go and get all these mammograms done. And then what's going to happen? There's going to be more breast cancer. And then that's going to lead to more screening. And then the more screening is going to lead to more cancer again because we keep giving these women all of this radiation. There comes a point where you have to think about this and go, wait a second, how come breast cancer rates are on the rise if all of this fancy testing is supposed to be saving our lives? It's not. You are being constantly sold things. The 3D mammogram doubles your exposure to a standard mammogram. And if you do both of them together, that now triples it. That's just simple math. You got to understand that. I know this is one of those ideas that when women are going, but I've been doing it for years, how could everything be wrong? Well, You need to do the research, and then you can become comfortable with your decisions. My wife has never had a single mammogram, and she never will have a mammogram because we view them as very, very dangerous. But you're going to have to make up your own mind. Now, Linda and I we spent some time in Florida a few weeks back, and we had the opportunity to get some sunshine, which was really great. And it was a nice reminder that as we see people age, you see some people that aged down in Florida, and they got around very, very well. Yet there was other people that I saw on the golf course, and it looked like someone had dropped a quarter in front of them because they were looking straight down at the ground trying to see where the change went to. So when it comes to aging, you can actually do a really good job at it, or you can not do what you're supposed to. And a lot of times most people are afraid to make changes in their life. You should not be afraid of change. You should more be afraid of what cancer, what high blood pressure, what heart disease is going to do to you. But then instead of being afraid, you should understand that a healthy lifestyle is going to help you avoid all of that. Now, things that we do at home, I've talked about this before, is the intermittent fasting. When we came back from Florida, one day I went 20 and a half hours without eating between my meals. So that was between, I think it was 3:30 in the afternoon, and then it was noon the next day. So here I did my fast, and my body works better. When people fast, you still get to eat your 3 meals that day, but your body actually, the metabolism works better. So you can burn off more calories, and then your body actually is far healthier if you throw in some intermittent fasting. But the problem is, people don't think about it. They don't think about what aging is going to be like if you don't start making better choices, if you don't start exercising, if you just don't start looking at things like fasting. Well, in front of me now is an article. It's about a marvel. It's a runner from Milton. His name's Ed Whitlock. You've heard me talk about him before on the show. In October, he was 85. He set a world record for the first person ever to run a marathon in under 4 hours at 85 years of age. First person who's ever done it. Now, once again, he kept his body in shape. When you read on this article, he's been running for years. And when he's been running for years, he's one of those guys who's 85 and he's on 0 medications. You see, this is going to be me in 30 years. I want to be this guy because he lived a lifestyle that worked. Now, let me read what we see at the end of the article. They talk about something called motor units. Now, motor units it's a nerve and it's a muscle that communicate. And typically, as we get older, our number of motor units in the body starts to go down. So let's say, they talk in this article, in his tibialis anterior, his shin muscle, you're supposed to have 160 when you're young. But at his age, he should have 60 instead of 160. So you see the drop in the motor unit. So basically, if you don't use it, you lose it. We've been told this for years, and people don't want to understand that. But if you don't exercise, if you don't eat right, you lose the ability to do that. So it's supposed to be 160. People Ed Whitlock's age should be 60. He's at 100. Wow. He's off the chart. He's not where he used to be when he's young, but he's way better than the other people at 80. Well, how did that happen? Is it genes? Is it luck? No, it's lifestyle. He kept up with his exercise. And then when he did that, his body works better. They went on to say in this article, this preservation might largely be explained, he said, by chronically elevated levels of circulating chemicals called neurotropins, which protect and nurture neurons, helping them survive. So he's not a freak of nature. He's just a person who did something different. He's someone who stepped out and said, I want to live a certain lifestyle. And now we're starting to see, wow, what a great decision he made. So, when I'm 85, I want to break his record. But I have to wait a few years to get there. But since one person has now run a marathon under 4 hours at 85, that means anyone can do it. In fact, anyone could have done it before. No one tried, no one was capable, no one put the effort into it. Another article in the paper, and this is another study, sugary drinks a danger to the health system. So I talk about this. I talk about how many studies do you need before you're going to stop drinking sugar and eating sugar all day long. Well, once again, here's another study, because obviously we don't need, we need more studies for you, but I don't need any more studies. Here's what they say. Over the next 25 years, sugary drink consumption is going to lead to 1 million Canadians, that 1 million new Canadians who are overweight, and 3 million more that are obese. So that's 4 million Canadians just from doing that are going to become overweight or obese. Almost 1 million cases of type 2 diabetes. Get this, 300,000 cases of ischemic heart disease. So you're going to end up with a heart problem. 100,000 cases of cancer. You know how when I talk about sugar can lead to cancer? 100,000 new cases of cancer and 40,000 strokes. Well, gee, I don't know. Maybe it's a good time for you to stop drinking and eating sugar, because it's bad for you. Linda and I have been grain-free and sugar-free with a couple little slip-ups, but the reality is now we've taken sugar right out of our lives. And you know what? You'll miss it for the first 5 days, and then after you get through day 5, you won't miss it at all. And then when you do have something, when someone says, here, you have to have a bite of this dessert, you'll have a bite and you'll go, yeah, that was pretty sweet, thanks. And you'll stop at that point. So this is what you have to do, is you have to make some changes. The comfortably numb world that we're living in. Next article here is on Parkinson's patients are often overprescribed. So let me read the first paragraph in here. Nursing home residents with Parkinson's disease are frequently given potentially harmful antipsychotic drugs without clear justification, according to new research. This is called off-label prescription. So if your parents or grandparents are in a nursing home, they can easily be given antipsychotic drugs. And you know what? It's just an acceptable thing. And here's what happens when people end up on these drugs. They can worsen Parkinson's symptoms and hamper mobility by slowing movements and making muscles more rigid. And that may start, they might mean they'll be falling more and having trouble swallowing. Swallowing difficulties can lead to pneumonia, and medication can also increase the risk of heart and stroke. So here we have people that are now being put on a drug they're not supposed to be put on. That's going to now lead to swallowing problems. It can lead to pneumonia. Oh, don't worry. They're just going to give them the pneumonia shot, and that's going to fix that. And then it can increase the chance of heart attacks and strokes. And we're supposed to sit here and say, hey, we're doing great with the healthcare system. It's time that you think. It's time that you start making decisions that are different. And I'd like to help you in that area, because that's exactly what my office does. If you want to change your lifestyle, all you simply have to do is pick up the phone and call 519-886-4210. That's 519-886-4210, and say, you know what? It's time to change your life. God's put an amazing power inside your body, and that power will keep you alive. Your decisions are going to kill you. You are an incredible person, but you're not doing, you're not thinking, and you're not listening. It's time to do a little bit more of that. My name is Dr. Jeff Winchester from Bridgeport Family Chiropractic. You can reach me at 519-886-4210. Peace be with you. Well, I hope you enjoyed the show here today. I think we covered some pretty interesting topics, because a lot of times people are just so enthralled in, I need to go to the doctor, I need to have tests run, because that's the only way people are going to stay healthy. Well, the mammogram studies have shown that if you go in to have a mammogram, your mortality rate ends up the same. So let me kind of explain that so you understand that. So they'll find breast cancer, but what that means is the outcome will be exactly the same. You will either die or you'll live. See, the mammogram doesn't change anything. It just makes you aware of something. So mammograms aren't saving lives. They're not saving lives at all. The mortality rate is exactly the same. The only thing is you find out about it earlier. I got a better model. It's not getting sick in the first place. It's understanding a deodorant's a better choice than a 48-hour antiperspirant. 48-hour antiperspirant means you're not going to bathe and you're not going to exercise for 2 days. That seems crazy to me. Doesn't it seem crazy to you? That just means there's more drugs that you're putting into your body to stop your body from doing what your body's supposed to do. Your body is supposed to sweat. It's supposed to sweat out toxins. And if you keep those toxins in there, is it really a great reach when I say these toxins could end up in your lymphatic system and that could end up causing breast cancer? I don't think it's a leap at all. I think that's just common sense. When we break God's laws, things bad happen. Deodorants are more natural. Antiperspirants are not natural. So think about whatever you put into your body and then make your own decisions. Remember, you're incredible, but you're not doing what you should, you're not listening, and you're not necessarily thinking. So just try to get better at those things day by day. Start to eat a little bit better at breakfast, start to make some better exercise choices, and that's what we'll be talking about again on the show next week of what we need to do to get you there. So Dr. Jeff signing out, and I will see you next week.